Alright, sixth graders, your goal for this video is to be able to multiply decimals and to have a nice cheat sheet that you can use on tests. So please take out your math notebook or another piece of paper that you can tape in your math notebook later. I'm going to be checking this piece of paper. It is your notes, and it will be your proof of watching for this video. Okay, so in your math notebook, this outside outline is just showing you that you should have a page. So you don't need to draw that outside outline. See if I can make it go away. That works pretty well for a second there. Okay, so on the top of your paper, please write down multiplying decimals. And then we have 4 boxes. In the first box, you're going to be writing your instructions for how to multiply decimals. And that's going to be quite a few words, so make sure you have space. Underneath, I want you to write 3 more boxes. They can take up the whole rest of your paper, so you have lots of room. And these boxes are for the 3 different examples that we are going to be doing about multiplying decimals. Pause the video so you can finish writing your note sheet. Okay, so how to multiply decimals. First thing is kind of ignore the decimal and just multiply like you're multiplying whole numbers. So again, for those of you who can't read my gorgeous writing that says multiply as you would with whole numbers. Then you are going to count the decimal places in the factors. Remember, the factors are the numbers being multiplied. And then after you've counted how many decimal places are in the factors, you're going to put that many decimal places in the product. Remember, the product is the answer you get when you're multiplying. Pause this if you need more time to finish filling out this box. I will be looking in class tomorrow to make sure that you have all this information in that top box. All right, in your 3 example boxes, let's look at the first example box and write down this example. This first example, some people prefer to see as this. Just remember that when you have a number right next to parentheses, it means you're taking that number times everything in the parentheses. All right, but if you prefer to write it this way, you can on your paper. All right, so first thing I would do is multiply as I would with whole numbers. So I'm going to line these up. I'm going to put the number with more parts on top. I usually do when I multiply, and multiply by this. Multiply as I would with whole numbers? Okay, I can do that. 6 times 1 is 6. 9 times 6 is 54. 3 times 6 is 18, plus those 5 extras, I'm up to 23. All right, then here's the part where it's a little different. I need to count the decimal places. So here I see 2 decimal places in this factor, and in the second factor, I have no decimal places at all. So my total number of decimal places are 2. I'm going to start at the end and count 2 decimal places. 1, 2. All right, so this should be my answer, 23 and 46 hundredths. To check your answer and make sure it's reasonable, you can always go back to the original problem and use estimation. So 6 times 3 and 91 hundredths, or $3.91. That's about $4, right? If you have $3.91, you have approximately $4. 6 times 4 is 24. Is my answer close to 24? Yes, it is. So let's move on. If you need more time, pause, finish up, and go on to example 2 when you're ready. All right, example 2 says 3 and 1/10 times 0 and 5 hundredths. If you prefer to write it with a multiplication sign, you can. If it just makes sense to you, seeing the number right next to parentheses, and you know right away that means multiply, you can do it that way. All right, so first things first, let's line them up. I'm going to put 3.1 on top. I'm going to put 0.05 on the bottom. You can switch their order if you want. It won't hurt your answer. I think it's easier to put the zeros on the bottom. So 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 3 is 15. All right. Now, some of you will just say, okay, right there, I can count my decimal places and put it in my product because these other 2 numbers are 0. If you like to go through the whole process, go ahead. All right. So we multiplied the 5 times 3.1. Now we need to multiply the 0 times 3.1. I'll put a placeholder. 0 times 1 is 0. 0 times 3 is 0. All right. Then let's do my last 0. Put a placeholder. Put another placeholder. 0 times 1 is 0, 0 times 3 is 0. Now I can add those. 5 plus 0 plus 0 is 5. 5 plus 0 plus 0 is 5. 1 plus 0 plus 0 is 1, 0. Right? So now I've got the multiplication like I would with whole numbers down. I'm going to go back and check my factors. I'm going to check my numbers being multiplied and see how many decimal places they have. 3 and 1/10 has one place after the decimal, one number after the decimal. And 0 and 5/100 has two numbers after the decimal. All right? So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3 decimal places in my product or in my answer. 1, 2, 3. Right? So my answer is this, if I did all my work correctly. And to check, I'll go back and estimate. 3 and 1/10, that's like $3.10. All right? I'm just going to call it $3 as I estimate. 0 and 5/100, that would be like 5 pennies, which is pretty darn close to not having any money at all. 3 times 0 is 0. Is my answer close to 0? Yes. 0.155 or 155 thousandths is like 15.5 cents, which is basically the same as having no money at all. All right, let's go on to our last example. Of course, I saved the best for last. Okay, so this example is a little bit different because instead of just being multiplying, this problem has two operations. It has subtracting in the group, and it also has multiplying. Order of operations reminds us we have to do the groups first. We have to do what's in the groups first if we can. So I'm going to start by subtracting those two numbers. Remember, when we subtract, go back to our subtraction rules, we must line up the decimals. There we go. All right? I would say there are 0 hundredths and 0 thousandths. And to subtract, I must borrow. 10. Borrow from there. There we go. 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 7 is 2. 4 minus 1 is 3. Oh, there's a decimal. 4 minus 3 is 1. Okay? So now I have this whole step done. Now all I have left is 2 and 44 hundredths times 1 and 325 thousandths. Your job is to finish up this problem, so to do the multiplying using our multiplication rules if you forgot, and bring your completed notes to class tomorrow so I can check them. That will be your only proof of watching. So that is the only form of proof I will take. Your completed notes with this last problem solved.